MF Peers. We are on another episode with a special guest. For most of you, you probably have actually, unless you go to the 615 class, you have no idea who this member is. But believe it or not, he's been a member for what, 4 years?
3.5, 4 years.
4 years, almost 4 years. And Matt Kenig. So welcome, Matt. Thank you so much for being here. And there's a lot you're going to learn about Matt. Not only has he been almost a 4-year member, but I found out and I was very surprised he's a father of 3. He is also, believe it or not, he plays a big role into the business management system that we use here, which is Wodify, and so many other things just in terms of what he does in terms of bringing his energy. When he comes here, showing up on time, very, very, what do you call it, early. What's the early word? Not tardy, but I guess early talent.
I don't know. It'll come to me.
But there's a word for it or something. Early talent. But anyway, we're just excited to have Matt here, getting some really good conversation, and bring you guys plenty of wisdom. So what we're going to do, Matt, what we do every time is we just take 3 breaths, get grounded, and then we'll get started. So wherever you're at, just take a moment to sit up tall, lengthen your spine, and just bring your awareness to the idea of taking a deep inhale and exhale through your nose. And just start with a normal breath. And just using this moment or opportunity to be in that present moment, to be grounded. To also just recognize all of the opportunities that are always coming your way, even sometimes when those opportunities seem dull or maybe non-existent. Remind yourself that everything's happening in your favor. Everything's happening as a plan for you to grow, to evolve, to learn, to become. And most importantly, remember that the path is not alone. You are always supported with like-minded individuals, especially when you come here, knowing that you got a whole community of individuals who are like-minded, wanting to learn, grow, to be better, and for us to have the presence today with an individual who amplifies that in so many ways. So let's take our first deep breath in through our nose. Hold. Exhale. Again, breath in. Hold. Let it out. Here we go. Breath in. 3, 2, and big exhale. All righty. All right, Matt, Joe's going to give us a quote of the day here.
All
right, so I've been trying to get more creative with these quotes ever since Marco kind of called me out one time for being too mainstream. So last week was Mike Tyson. This one's a Tolkien quote, which is also great for Marco's Lord of the Rings love. It's from The Hobbit, There and Back Again. So it says, "There is nothing like looking if you want to find something. You certainly usually find something if you look, but it's not always quite the something you are after." So I like this quote, especially just talking about CrossFit origin stories, or just how you end up to where you are today, because you get to somewhere because you're making an effort, you're taking action, but what you find isn't always what you realize what you were looking for. I think about, my own journey starting CrossFit. I just was looking to get healthy again after losing baseball. Then I was like, oh, that's cool. I wasn't looking for CrossFit specifically, but I found it when I was in the process of looking. So I think just this idea of looking and looking back at your own, looking back at your past and where you're at today, you got here because you were looking for something, and you probably wouldn't have looked exactly for this, but this is where it's led you to, just a cool thing to think about.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. How does that make you feel, Matt?
Yeah, that's actually sums up kind of my experience here quite a bit. Where I, as Marcus said, I work for Wodify, and I was just looking in the area to learn more about the business, get some health benefits, but that was honestly at the time kind of secondary, and then it's kind of swapped where now I'm here for all the health and lifestyle improvements, and just secondary is kind of the day-to-day work side of things. So kind of swapped, I guess. Yeah.
Matt, Mr. Wodify. So like I said here, again, there's a whole story and background to what I want to get into for you, Matt.
Sure.
But first, have you listened to any of the episodes on the podcast?
I listened to a couple of them.
Oh, a couple. Well, just so we know, this is going to be episode number 30, right?
30. Is this
31.
right?
Oh, it's 31. Okay. We're already at 30. So this is going to be episode 31,
All right.
Matt. So
All right.
out of maybe the one podcast that you listen to,
No.
okay, you got 30 more to at least listen
All right.
to, okay?
You got it.
So, so now we're cruising. You're, obviously our, I think your 5th guest here. And, really the idea is just to give us some more background about, a little bit how your journey of CrossFit went and, how all that led to you, being in the here and now moment. But before we talk about CrossFit, I think what's important for me, at least, to understand is, one, you're a very, reserved individual. I mean, be honest, Matt's been here for such a long time, and sometimes, you're just just go with the flow guy in class. And, it doesn't mean you necessarily don't need attention, because when you started as a beginner, you definitely needed a lot of attention in terms of form, focus, coordination, movement, which you made a ton of improvement on. But you're just like very quiet and reserved individual, and you don't really ask for help, to be honest. And you're just kind of observing and just doing what you can in that moment. So tell me a little bit about, like, how has that always been your persona throughout your life? Because again, the deeper meaning is like, how were you brought up in terms of an individual, being just an overall nice, connected person to get along with, and how is that eventually, we'll talk about leading into how you are here at the gym.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let me think. I definitely have always been reserved. Definitely introvert by nature. You put me in a social environment, it's not for me. And then, having said that, it's I have a close group of friends and family, and even kind of at work. I've seen it even here at the 615 class. Like it takes a while, sure, but once I kind of get over that hump, I then become a little more comfortable in my space, and I've always been like that. I don't know. And then, but it's funny because then at work it's probably different, and family is probably different, friends is probably different, but those circles within each of them is probably fairly small.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I see you all the time, but I actually don't know too much about you. So this is a great
Sure,
opportunity.
I can tell you the whole life story.
Yeah, man. So what I'm kind of curious about, just we've talked to me and Marco have talked about this ourselves and other guests, their history, athletic history, what kind of led them to wanting to make fitness a regular practice, lifestyle growing up, what was young Matt like? Were you into sports? Were you into fitness? How did this kind of just planting the seeds of getting to where you're at today?
Yeah. So believe it or not, when I was through definitely elementary, middle school, and then probably in the high school a little bit, I was really into sports. I played a lot of sports, even just neighborhood stuff, but then in leagues and everything. And then it was kind of two things. Once physical stature started to catch up to me in high school, and then probably that coupled with then I found a passion, personal life for technology, computers, gadgets, and then sports in general from a participation point of view started to drop off. I did some in high school. I played baseball, played soccer, but it was more on the teams, but smaller school, and I wouldn't say super competitive. And then that part of it tapered off almost entirely, to be honest, through college. And I had fast metabolism, so even the whole weight gain, wasn't really a thing for me until, probably upper 20s probably. And I'm 37 now, and so now I don't know, things have changed since then, but I always kind of liked being on the team sports, learned a lot from that, that I still, to this day, don't take for granted. But, yeah.
That's funny. I mean, well, basically being here is like a team sport.
Yeah,
I mean, like you get to be in that group atmosphere, which you do very well in. I was going to ask how old you are, Matt, because you said 37. And to be quite honest, when Matt first started here, Matt, I swear you were like 23 years old, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt is, small in stature, right? Obviously, we're talking about, genetics in terms of what you're dealt with. I also call you the mini-me to Joe Manzo, who's also another 6'15", sometimes, I guess when he first started. So Joe Manzo, if you're listening, shout out to you. But I also just categorize the 6'15" as my misfit group, to be honest. I love you guys, but it's a very good mix, and I honestly really think you guys attest to, the inclusion and diversity of like what CrossFit is. I mean, think about it, like you just used sport as an opportunity to be physically active, but you never really took it to that competitive standpoint, which really is what the whole methodology of what CrossFit is, right? It's about, living longer, healthier, more functional, and having, getting up off the ground with a little bit more jazz. And what I think is really important for you guys also, what Joe noted, is that, I mean, no one really knows anything about you, to be honest, because I don't think you've been able to make a holiday party ever, right? I mean, you haven't been able to, like, come to any of our competitive things. I'm not narking on you here, by the way. I'm not making you feel too bad. But he hasn't really had a chance to make really any event because you're a family man. And this is the other thing that surprised me. And we were just doing, couch stretch one of these days, and I'm doing trivia with everybody. And, I don't even know if I asked you if you had kids or something, but like that. When we found out you had three kids, 3 girls. I mean, you're a triple girl dad. Joe's going to be a girl dad.
Yeah.
Do you have any girl dad advice for Joe?
Girl dad advice. That is a good one. I don't know. It's awesome. I mean, there's nothing like being a dad. It's really, it's.
How old are your girls?
Yeah, how old are they?
So the oldest is 6. She just started kindergarten at Penn.
Okay.
Middle, her name is Sienna. Our middle is Jamie. She's 4. She's at pre-K at preschool at Cardinal Foley at St. Dennis down there. And then our youngest is 2.5, and she's at home with our nanny.
Wow. And where in Havertown are you?
So we're in Wynwood. So we're
okay.
right by Penn Elementary School, or by the library there, right off Manoa.
Are you born and raised in this local area? Where are you from?
No, I'm from Huntington Valley.
I don't know where that is.
Are you from? You go to Neshaminy?
That's where I went to Bucks County in high school.
Okay, I'm
for
Montgomery
a few
County. I went to Lower Moreland High School.
Okay.
Small public, but yeah, small school.
Okay.
And I was there, graduated there, and then went to Lehigh University. So kind of the other direction, but still close enough. And then I was in New York after graduation, after I graduated college for a couple years. Then I was in the city in Philly, and then my wife and I, we didn't really know heard this area, but we didn't know too much about it. And for work reasons and everything, we settled down and been here for 7 years.
Okay, so not too long after you guys moved here, you had your first child. So what that means is when you started here, I mean, you were pretty much in the thick of it with, basically a newborn.
Yeah.
And then while being here, you had another child. So talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, obviously, I can attest a little bit having a 1-month-old, and Joe's going to have his first child. So tell us a little bit about this journey. Now, as you start to segue into CrossFit, tell us a little bit about the challenge of, like, you're making this now commitment for yourself. We'll talk about why, but, what was it like knowing that, you have a 1-year-old and you're going to have another child potentially throughout this whole experience, and, like, having to balance all that?
Yeah, it's tough. It's, thankfully my wife is very supportive, obviously, but even more so supportive of me being here. And so, because I'd never, going back a little bit, I never really had a workout routine, like for reasons that I kind of mostly mentioned. And so I didn't know how long I would last, which we'll get more into that. But so the point is, like, it's a priority for me, it's a priority for the family, and that's helped a lot. And so, as newborn, it's always tough, but then I think I was back within a couple weeks probably, and then I got back pretty quickly from that, and that yeah, I mean, and I tapered off a little bit in terms of how many times I would come per week, but I wanted to make sure I made a point to still be here and at least can be consistent, and then as every day gets easier from a fatherhood parent point of view, so we're kind of out of that now, but yeah, I just always made it a priority because I don't know, enjoy it. Yeah. So
One thing that I always wonder when I like I said, I'm always like curious of the Matt story. One question I have in my mind is obviously you work for Wodify, which is technology for businesses like CrossFit MFP, small gyms. How long have you been with Wodify, and did you like want to work for a software company that helps fitness, or was it just like you wanted to work for like a software company, and then like was it Wodify then MFP, was it MFP then Wodify, like just that like relationship between the two, because it's interesting.
So I've been at Wodify, it'll be 5 years, and I coincidentally started, I wasn't in the travel space before, and I coincidentally started, like I interviewed at Wodify like the last day of when people were in person. Then so I interviewed there, and by the time I started, 3 weeks later, everybody was remote and everything. And so I've been there for 5 years, and I like small businesses, startup environment, entrepreneurial environment, and at the time, the whole work remotely wasn't really a thing, or not as much, and so I wanted something that we had already lived, that was in Philly, and then I wanted something that maybe not necessarily fitness per se, but something that would help people, that was even that's kind of coming from travel, a different world, but just where it just made people's lives enjoyable. It was easy to relate to. And then, it was probably about, not too long, maybe a couple months after I had started, where I, wanted to learn more about CrossFit, the business, everything, and that's how I got started here. And I was just looking around for local CrossFit gyms, a couple of colleagues that kind of lived in the area and recommended places, who to stay away from and who to go after. And I was like, well, it's right down the street, so here we go. And the rest in that regard is history. But
okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we're definitely honored you chose MFP as your Wodify spot. Actually, at the time, I believe I didn't start Wodify just yet. So just to kind of retrace and give you guys some education, like we're talking about, Wodify is a business software system that allows basically micro gyms. It doesn't necessarily have to be CrossFit, but Wodify became notorious with the CrossFit space because of some of the perks that the software offered. For example, like recording workouts. Like that was really one of the biggest features of Wodify. But before Wodify, I was using Zen Planner here, which is just different software. And it actually ended up being like such a perfect timing, perfect fit. Like everything was just like the universe was just presenting itself for a new opportunity, because I was actually in a phase here where I was looking for a more efficient business software system that made things a little bit easier, like signing up for classes, doing back end stuff, just so you guys know, like how like the calendar's created, what did you guys sign up for, like how we set you guys up with a profile for members, like how you guys make your payment methods, how we set up memberships, how we post workouts, like every little detail. That was actually the biggest thing, because with Zen Planner, if you guys are old school, like Steph Vitro for the boot camp class, she was able to even use this whiteboard here to write the workout because there was a malfunction on our computer, not Wodify. But back in the day, we used to write workouts. I mean, that's a very classic like CrossFit thing. Like Joe will tell you guys too. It's like, you have a workout of the day, the coaches write it on the whiteboard. Very classic. Everybody like tells the coach the results, and they write the results on the whiteboard. Like that's where I originated from. But I was like, listen, like that's a lot of time, pain in the butt. Like rather have something that's more AI based, where they can sign up, make it reserved, the workouts are on their app, and then that way they can actually put in the results. So that's what made Wodify really, I would say, attractive to me. Sure. But I then realized, like, as I was looking for, I didn't think of Wodify at first, but then when we started having conversations, you're like, oh yeah, actually I work for Wodify. I'm like, what? Like, dude, this guy works for fucking Wodify. Like, this is it. And then you basically ended up being my resource for allowing me to take like this next step for, you know, managing the business all on the back end stuff, which is actually very tedious. I mean, at the time I was doing it all myself. Now Joe has been helping a lot with everything, and same with Coach Amy. And so it's also evolved, which has been very, very helpful. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but I just wanted to put that out there for you guys to really let you guys know, like, Matt was really a big part of, you know, the evolution for the business in terms of trying to find a reliable business software. And so I've been super committed to it, and it's been such a big help. But let's go back to your story. We'll talk about Wodify in a little bit. But going into now, you find this gym, you know, you're here just because you're like curious, because basically the business, all their clienteles are CrossFit. Mm-hmm. So I like your mindset, because you're like, I want to now be in a space where we treat our clients to learn more about how I can do my job better, which also I really respect. I thought that was really cool. So tell me a little bit now about, like, you're in this for this certain mindset, but that potentially evolved to like how you're talking about, like, you're doing this for a much more deeper reason or why. So first, tell us about your first experience in the gym. Do you remember your first workout by chance?
Not the workout, but I remember it was Coach John. And,
you had John?
Yeah.
Was this a 6:15 class, obviously?
It was, but I think you may have been away, and then, but yeah, you guys were both coaching the 6:15s at that time. Yeah.
Some of the best clients we have are like when I'm away and someone's there and they drop in, and like I come back and they're like, who's this new person? And they end up sticking. John tells me everything about him. John will be like, oh, listen, this person might need a little bit of work, but go after it. So tell me a little bit about your first, you know, months to year, and like, what were some of the challenges? Where do you feel like, you know, what made you feel like you want to come back as well?
Yeah. It was definitely, even from those first couple classes, I just fit right in. You kind of mentioned the 6:15 culture, I guess, and it was even true then. And I remember the first two classes, I was just so pleasantly surprised, because I was pretty nervous going into it. I didn't know what to expect, and you hear, as an outsider, you hear, oh, CrossFit can be, I don't know, has a couple different kind of meanings behind it, and so I didn't know what I was getting into. And John and you guys were just so patient with me in the beginning, and I essentially knew nothing. It was like, you know, kind of going back to my history there. I didn't know where to start. You know, I had done a rowing machine, but certainly none of these other movements. And then even more so, had no idea the form and anything. So the patience, and then I would say within 90 days, maybe a couple more months, but I lost like 10 pounds, and I just started feeling way better physically. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then once it was obvious pretty early on, I was like, well, you know, I love doing this. I'm putting it into my routine. Yeah,
you are a man of routine. So yeah, Matt has, I mean, amazing attendance, but you've only been to the 6:15 class. So like, what is, like, you know, part of that routine? So like, a day in the life, man. Like, you know, a day in the life. And I always say that one year we're gonna have a holiday party at 6:15 a.m. just so Matt could make it. But yeah, like, how does routine help you, like, be your best is also a way to think about it as well.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, you guys know this as well, because even earlier, but I've always had to have my sleep. Even before this, I was just, and so I have to go to sleep early the night before, and then I'll be up. I usually get up around 5 something, and then, maybe check some emails, catch up on stuff, and then obviously I head over here for the 6:15, and then when I was looking at, rewinding a little bit, when I was looking at all the different class times that were offered, I was like, well, okay, 5 a.m. for me was a little early, and then I'm not really a nighttime, so, and then I even considered a little bit like the noon class, the midday, but it was just hard to kind of make it work. So I'm like, well, 6:15 or 7:30, And then the 6:15 just worked out because, I don't know, it fit nicely. And then when I go home, by the time I'm home, all the kids are up and we're kind of getting them ready for their day. And it just fit in nicely, and that in itself has obviously been a constant. So that's how, I'm home. I get home, help with the kids, get them ready, and then start my day. And I also just, I don't know, the morning workout is awesome just because I'm done for the day. And, so.
What's your brekkie like? What's the go-to brekkie?
It depends. It can be anything from, I don't know, certain plains. I was never a big breakfast person. I will say this, has changed me. I eat when I get back a bagel, toast, cereal, but nothing fancy.
Okay.
I'm a big lunch and dinner,
guy.
lunch and dinner guy. Yeah.
All right, so he likes to fast until he has his bagel.
And the sweets. That's the
all right.
biggest thing.
We got to work, Coach Amy. All right,
Yeah.
we'll get you Matt over to you.
I do try and be mindful, but it's hard, especially with the
And
kids.
so now that you have this journey, you're getting started with CrossFit. You're finding out all these new skills. Were you finding like anything like that really was like catching your eye, or anything like really challenging you that maybe had you second guess things, or were you just kind of just like open-minded? Which I kind of get the vibe for you. It was really nice to have, just in terms of you as a client, as a member, like somebody that just like comes in there like so open-minded where, even if it's something extremely challenging like a snatch or doing some skills or like just metabolically hard, like I don't think you've ever, I don't even think I could like look at you and see a thought of a complaint come out of your head, even if you maybe had. So like, what's that journey like in terms of like learning all these new exercises, and like what's being challenging for you, and what's your thought process as you're like developing to some of these new things?
Yeah, it was definitely and still, well, maybe not as much now, but the weightlifting, the technique. I actually remember for a while when I started, you had me just do empty bar, and it was good because I'd learned the techniques and everything, and that was, talk about foreign to me. I never probably even picked up a barbell before, and so the technique, and then you get into the more complex movements, and so that was when I first started, probably the biggest thing that was like, wow, I have a lot of work to do. Now it's probably more of, I don't know. I like when we're outside. Probably some of the pull-up rig and that stuff probably gets me a little bit. But and then the kettlebell stuff you gotta think through and all that. But
I got
yeah,
The Jedi
but
Master.
that's
Dude, you were flowing last week.
I know
dude. You were good.
You
were flowing.
That was quite the workout.
I'm proud
I was
of you, dude.
surprised.
Honestly, well, I'll put it like this, Matt. And just to be quite frank, and all like as a coach, perspective, like you came in like with very low body awareness. In terms of like how you're saying, like learning how to like hinge and flatten your back, or sit into a squat, or like rotate your body. You could do basic things pretty well, like learn how to like hang, do push-ups, but yeah, definitely learning like the Olympic technique, and just so many things like. I've seen a lot of growth in, so like you should definitely be proud of yourself. And also just like your physical like body composition. Like I would say when you first started, like you were saying, you noticed that drop, like, you kind of you just looked like somebody like with zero muscle mass almost, right? You never really had resistance and strength. And you could see how that changed through your first few months of like starting with resistance training. Like you could see muscle definition and that physical change of like, I say cut the fluff. It's like the baby fat there, And so like that was a really big change for you when I saw that. And it just really comes down to just letting your body adapt the way it needs to, like never trying to like do anything out of your league, right? It's like you never came here with like an ego. I think that's a good testimony for people to understand. So like tell us a little bit about your process of like scaling and being mindful and like not really caring about how much weight you use. It's just about like moving and getting into a rhythm.
Yeah, it's a lot of, you definitely kind of had to remind myself early on, at least, was like, hey, I'm going to scale automatically. And then the question is kind of, what do you scale to? And in the beginning I scaled, like I said, the empty bar just to get the techniques. And now, even still, I guess the 6:15 class, I don't know. There's all ranges, right? Yeah. But yeah, I'm comfortable scaling, but still trying to, and sometimes I struggle with this, is finding the balance between scaling but still pushing myself enough to do stuff. And you guys are great about kind of, hey, why don't you add more, more weight to that, or go up in weight and whatnot. So, but yeah, that's probably, I'm comfortable scaling, but I have to be careful that I'm not too comfortable scaling, so I continue to see improvement as well. Yeah.
I think it's a good reflection too, just knowing that like this takes time. Whenever people join, especially people who don't have a ton of like experience in fitness or athletics, like it's not going to be easy at first, and some people I think that don't set themselves up for success, like they're in for even just a month and they're like, I don't know, but it's like, it takes time. Like, what was your mental approach with that? Like, just having that balance of like commitment, but also patience and like, just giving yourself grace, knowing that like this isn't going to be like, I'm okay, I got it,
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's maybe just kind of how, I don't know, I'm not scared of the grind and kind of putting in the work in and the time and patience. And I saw the results, so in some ways, honestly, that ended up becoming pretty easy to do. And I saw results, maybe not even just the physical, but like just learning. Like I said, I had no idea about any of this. I knew the whole fitness world was out there, but I didn't really know much about it. And now, watching the CrossFit Games before I started would have meant nothing to me. Now it's like you can appreciate all that. It is. So probably just that learning mindset that I like to have is probably carried me through a lot of it.
Yeah, dude, it totally transferred, and it's definitely shown here. And so, you mentioned being outdoors. I just remember like there's a photo of you. I don't even remember because when Jack used to come take video and photos, he had a great video, and your Matt was doing some backward sled drags.
I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah,
that was really good.
I remember Jack.
Yeah, Jack. Yeah, he's big time guy for the 76ers now.
Oh, really?
Now we got JT though. JT's holding it down. We have it's all homegrown. Everything's homegrown here, man.
Good.
We got our camera guy, we got our Wodify guy.
That's community.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit now. Let's keep flowing here. I want to know a little bit more about this transferring. Everything that you're doing here, and now transferring now into your daily lifestyle. So let's talk about Wodify, because I think, like you were saying, you really came here for, like, I think when it comes to commitment to something, right? I think most people would probably judge and look at someone like you and be like, oh, you do CrossFit? Like, CrossFit's like this super crazy intense thing. Like, you're just a normal dude.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's great, because someone mostly like in your stature or abilities would start something like this and have a completely negative mindset to it. But it was good that you had an accountability for your work, right? And that's kind of where like your initial mindset was, and then it grew to maybe something else. But talk a little bit about, what was it like starting this, and then now going to, do you do like a 9 to 5? Is that what your typical? Like,
I wish, but no, it's pretty. Yeah, it's a lot of around the clock.
Around the
stuff.
clock,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
whenever you need it. Well, tell us a little bit.
Go ahead.
Tell us a little bit about your experience. Like, tell us now more about not only what feedback you're getting for Wodify when you go back to work, but also like what your schedule is, what's your Wodify life like, because I think it'll be good for members to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, generally sure. I guess it's 9 to 5, but just because of the nature of the small company, and we have to make sure that we support the businesses that are running kind of at odd hours, in the sense of almost opposite of 9 to 5.
Right.
So
Yeah, you get Marco emailing you at 4 a.m. Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
What's your role there, by the way?
I'm Chief Product Officer, so I'm responsible for pretty much the whole product with everybody else. But that's
Got it.
kind of
All right, so you're Chief Product Officer, and just like you were saying, just for heads up, Wodify is an international
correct. Yeah.
Company. I mean, because CrossFit is an international, enigma with what it does. So, that makes you like, talk all about that stuff.
Yeah.
For us. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I guess, so we have our normal hours, but then we do our software updates Thursday night into Friday. That's why sometimes I can't make the Friday classes. But even then, it's like we have a lot of customers in Australia. I mean, among the world, but those are the ones that, because they're almost a half day ahead of us. We might do things at off hours here, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, but it could be peak time for them. So that in itself creates a lot of, I'll call it off hour stuff that we have to work through. And then if something happens, we have to make sure that stuff is up and running Monday morning. Obviously we still prioritize having it up for weekends, but that Monday morning, rush comes around in the fitness space, and it's the top in terms of usage. But yeah, I would say so. That's kind of the hours. Is that kind of what you were?
Yeah, I mean, so tell me more about your role.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly, specifically how that works.
Yeah, so we've got a team of what we call 5 product managers, and each one owns a different domain within Wodify. We have obviously the gym management side, we have the client application side, we have a lot of kind of automations and everything, and then we have a team of designers, so 2 designers, and then we have a team of technical product support folks, which are just they know all about the product. They help us troubleshoot. They submit ideas. They're a little bit closer to the customers than we are, or than some are. And then we work very closely with what I don't oversee, but work regularly with our software engineers who are kind of writing code and building new features. And what else? That's kind of the makeup of the team, I guess. But yeah, we are on kind of 2 sides of the fence. So not most of the efforts, frankly, are put into what you guys operate on, which is the gym management side. And so that's a lot of, I guess, the split between the team and the product.
Is there something during your time at Wodify like you could look back at and be like, hell yeah, like I was an awesome thing that I did, like that really helped this business, or I really helped Marco out there, is there any, like, it doesn't have to be one thing, maybe it's just like some things that come to mind, and it could be MFP examples too, if you don't want to talk about other gyms, but just like some things you've done that you look back and you're like, hell yeah, that was awesome.
There's a lot. I mean, I would say actually one that happens very frequently is that there are people on the product and engineering side that may not actually be a member of a Wodify gym like I am. So I share my real life login, literally speaking, for them to kind of play around with. So that's just one kind of example. That happens daily, really. But then a lot of the stuff that, even like the Kiosk Plus stuff, I remember more recently, there used to be the purple up there, and I was like, hey, Marco, I think you can actually, A, save money, and then B, get your own branding on there and on the app. And so it's little things like that I can relate to more regularly, that I do often try to share with the rest of the team, because you got to get out there and see real life how people are using. So that was the custom branding one. I mean, there's also stuff that if I'm kind of making a reservation for a class, I'll notice things, or like maybe little bugs that you guys may not notice, hopefully. But then, yeah.
Well, I'll definitely say I'm grateful for you, dude. Like, Matt has been, he probably gets it's been good recently, but I mean, just like any company, I mean, especially when you're in software, like you're going to deal with so many glitches, so many things, like it's normal. I mean, compared to what Zen Planner was providing years back, like you guys are way above the standard for helping out, but like,
an ad for Wodify.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so many things that have happened over the years. Like you guys who've been here for a long time know when we have a Wodify crash or something happens, or if there's just something on the back end, which none of you guys would know about, that I just, like, Matt's my first line of defense. Like, I get my email set, I got Matt, support@wodify.com. Like, that's the order. It's like, I got to get Matt involved, because I know Matt's going to direct me at least to the right person to get me, all settled. And, like, again, there's been 2 things I really appreciated. Is just one, like you said, you're like, you are someone in the space of the clientele that you serve, so that way you can do your job better. And 2, I think what really has been helpful is just that, when it comes to the evolution of what you guys do on the back end, like so many things have changed for like the growth of the business manager or business owner experience. Like when I'm doing things, when I'm putting in you guys into the system, or we're trying to create leads, or we had like the upgrade, like I had a website and you're like, oh, hey, by the way, like we'll do a Wodify website for you. So it's all under one umbrella, like how that all got set up. Like, yeah, like the custom branding, like now when you guys go on the app, you see Just Show Up, you see the MFP logo, like so many things that have made just the professional side of everything, so much better. And I love that, like, they're always trying to like evolve that. You guys are trying to continue to like grow and not just simply be complacent. Like sometimes you find that balance of like, hey, what's working, stay here, to like, oh, hey, can we make this better? So I want you to attest to that a little bit. Like, tell me a little bit about, what were you learning, and specifically like that made you come back to work, like knowing what you did here on a day-to-day basis. Like, do you feel like you had more confidence? Yeah. And two, like how have maybe you've been able to like give better feedback to help evolve some of the things that you guys are doing on the back
Yeah, I mean,
end?
even just like the terminology, like we deal with it, we see it every day in like the workout builder and everything, and so CrossFit specific workouts, movements, components, we see all that. And I remember when I started, I knew nothing, so I was the one that was asking other employees, for example, what's a snatch, or what, and now it's the opposite, where people are asking me, what. That's just one example, and it can be anything from anything. And one that comes up every year is the open. It's like, okay, the 3 Fridays, like we just tell the company like, hey, this is happening. Like, be mindful of what changes you're putting out there, because it's a big time of year in the CrossFit space. And now I'm kind of the one that's doing that reminding, because I know naturally when it is. Where before I had no idea what it even was. So there's a lot of the small examples that I try to, because we're a small company, I share out everything as much as I can.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, I'll just mention I'm probably one of the pain in the butt gym owners that, like, when I like message you for like something I need, like I'm like, yo, I need this, like this and that. But I try to be pretty.
No, it's
at
good.
least
It's good.
specific.
They're all like a lot of, but it's I kind of joke about it, but it's that's how you run your business. It's you should be like that. Yeah.
Now, my quick question is, what is the future technology of spell check for Marco here? Because that is the one.
You ain't gonna find
there.
AI.
Is there an AI development that could?
Fix cream.
We have
There probably
hang
is. But, I saw that.
hang Keens today.
Yeah,
CKEANS. So no, I'm just joking.
I love it. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Wodify needs a spell check thing. I mean,
Workout.
that ain't gonna happen, dude.
Clean.
With all the stuff.
Yeah.
I love that you brought up the open, though. I mean, hey, listen, this is gonna be your.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, the Team Blueberries. Yeah.
Well,
What would it be fourth? Yeah, because I
fourth.
started. Yeah, fourth. I think.
Dude,
Yeah.
I'm pumped, man. So Matt is obviously somebody who participates in the open every year, buys into it, and I'm actually thinking this year, to give you guys a little spoiler, I'm thinking of doing our own version of the open, where we register under MFP versus the main site, and we have a leaderboard via Wodify. So I'm just gonna throw that out to you. So just so you're aware. So if you get Wodify Marco MFP leaderboard for MFP for the open, you're gonna be the guy that I reach out to. Okay.
Yeah.
So but we're definitely trying to do something fun for the intramural. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your open experiences. Like, obviously they're hard. Have you seen your progress from when you've started the open to where you've been on Team Blueberry now, almost runner-up winners, but it's
Yeah.
close.
No, I have.
You represent the Blueberry so well, man.
I change teams every year. I hope that hope I'm not last pick. I know at one point I was. I just hope no, but I.
You can't go anywhere.
No, you're totally Team Blueberry for life.
No, I mean, talk about intimidating at first, and that was because I started in the summer sometime, and obviously I had to wait until the February, March, so I was still months into it. But I remember I was nervous then. I didn't know for the workouts themselves, but then just I don't know the whole environment, how I would do it, and I've learned. I don't know. I've just learned the workouts, pacing, and measuring can be kind of different. Just get as far as you can. Yeah. So Yeah, I've learned, and nothing movement-wise scares me too much. The wall balls get me every time because I got to hit the red, and that's
Long distance.
it is.
It's not a short person
I know.
exercise.
That's probably going back to the exercises. I don't mind doing it during class, but the open, that's the one that gets me every time because I get a lot of
No reps.
no reps for that one because the red line. But
We didn't have wall balls last year, so I think they might bring it back.
yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, in terms of your Wodify clientele, I mean, tell us a little bit of how MFP, like, in terms of other CrossFit gyms. I mean, you don't have to. You could say anything like our flaws too, but like, how does MFP compare to some of your Australian clientele?
No, you guys are top all around. And even the day-to-day experience, like this is kind of more of an aside, but when I have dropped into classes to other gyms, which isn't too many, but a handful, and then certainly talk to friends. And even if they're a lot more physically fit at their gym, their coaching, I honestly think makes a huge difference. And you guys do a great job of that. And showing how the movement works every morning, even no matter how experienced you've been. It's just such a great reminder. And I that's one specific example where a lot of gyms operate it more, or some I should say, more as a true business, where maybe like it's sold once or twice, and the new owners just kind of want to make money and don't even really care if it's a slow. I don't even care about the actual experience, the engine experience. So no, you guys, I think it's top for sure, and certainly, it's awesome appearance in here for sure. I like the close feel. Equipment's awesome, and everybody always asks, sends in requests and features, and when there's stuff, and it's all good.
No,
So that's
I appreciate that. I mean, I think that that was really. Appreciate that comment about we are a community focused gym, and that's why one of the big reasons why Joe has been such a big part of the business growth is because obviously we have lives. Financial is going to be a big thing, and we're not going to be $1 million gym by any means, but the larger impact of how we work with humanity, which is the bigger concept of this podcast, is how do we just show up as human beings together and outside of the gym, and really the biggest thing. So for you, how do you feel what you do here transfers to your family, your lifestyle, your work, whether it doesn't have to be the physical, your mental, your emotional, your spiritual self, how has all that started to develop for you?
It has a lot, especially with kids, where everything from just being patient, not getting frustrated. I mean, I remind the kids, even if they're coloring the lines and they get frustrated because they color out of the lines, it's just grab a new piece of paper and try it again. Things like that, the patience, the persistence for sure. And even I always think the just show up is so, that's another reason why it's awesome here, because it's so mindless in a very positive way. Literally the only thing I have to worry about is waking up and being here. And it's I know that once I'm in there, you guys help with the coaching and teaching everything, and then 100 times out of 100 times, whenever I walk out, I feel amazing. And I try to relay that on to kids, wife, family, we weren't sure if we were going to send our middle to preschool, just because we thought maybe she was a little young, and we're like, oh, let's just send her and let the process take care of itself. And it's been amazing. Yeah, exactly. And there's not many things in life where it's actually just show up and let somebody else who cares enough about you will make it easier from there. And it's so I try to remind myself of those moments of when that happens.
That's awesome, man. I love that, just knowing that you have that confidence in us too is a very rewarding feeling. One thing is a little bit off topic as we kind of get close to wrapping up, but one question I have is related to recently I've been talking here at the gym about how little we're actually at the gym compared to the rest of our week. So I just genuinely want to know about you. What else you're interested in, man? You said you love computers, technology. Are you a movie guy, video game guy?
Not anymore. Honestly, my life is. It's very simple. It's
you're a man of routine.
I work. Yeah. Well, it's with yeah, I mean, when we didn't have kids, we did more socially, but I'll say, but no, I go to the gym, I work, family, and then I still am a real big fan of sporting events. So so I was at the Eagles game yesterday, and so I try to do that. I'll watch it,
Awesome.
but really and the computer time is mostly just work related, but. No, I used to play video games, but not really,
time now.
nothing anymore. And even movies and the streaming shows, I honestly don't. I'm not lying. It's very basic.
Are your friends local around here? Like you have like
Yeah, I have 5 friends that are local enough in the greater area that I say that 5 because we grew up in kindergarten together. We've kind of got a good team of 6 going with me, and then some buddies from college that I'm still like. And we see each other all the time. We how the texting chains are nonstop and about all crap, but it's all hilarious. Yeah, so we see them, and our timing of our lives is similar in the sense that they have young kids, so now we have good excuses with the birthday parties and to see each other. So it's
nice.
Yeah, and then my family's about 45 minutes. My wife's family's kind of 45 minutes in our direction, and we it's generally it. But I'm sorry, there's nothing. I wish.
What do they say when you tell them that you do CrossFit, man?
Oh,
CrossFit guy.
they'll ask me, "Oh, you're still doing it?" And I got compliments. I mean, first time, especially someone like me, ever got compliments at family parties. Oh, wow, you've been working out, or you look thinner, things like that. But no, I tell them. I mean, I'm like, if you guys ever move into this immediate area, here's the gym for you. And
do they think you're nuts?
They don't think I'm well.
They probably don't. I mean, 'cause usually, like you're saying, there's a preconceived notion of CrossFit being a poor thing for your body, where it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So
I mean, what a common question, not just from them, will be, you guys have heard like, oh, have you gotten hurt yet? And I haven't. And it's and I kind of explain why, but I do tell them like if they're gonna pick a gym, CrossFit or not, like the coaching experience means everything. Like I've done some of the the boot camp style where you just kind of sign up and they're just kind of and it's just I don't know, it's not really for me, I think. And some people it is, but I do tell them like, hey, it's very almost like a one-on-one atmosphere.
You're an intentional guy.
Yeah.
So, you have an intentional environment.
Intentional man.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, you're a simple man. I mean, I think that's what we were expecting, right? But it was really great to understand. I think hopefully you can make a MFP event down the road and tell everybody about your family, your kids, and you got gym family here. Obviously, you're 615, but know that we have a whole larger family here, and obviously I'm not gonna make you feel bad for not making any events.
Hey, I dressed up this year. That was
you did. Nick Sirianni, the Nick Sirianni Halloween outfit was great.
Yeah.
So you did
baby steps, but no,
you and Holly crushed that.
Yeah.
Crushed that. Well, man, we know like he's the early bird. You are a man of routine. I think we learned that. You definitely are a man of routine because you're here literally always a good 5 minutes before class, ready to go, hang out, calm, cool, collected, very reserved. We know that you have a passion for, walking the walk on the computer, and obviously you've been a great help to everything that, you've done here on the back end with Wodify. And we know you're a family guy, man. And, Joe and I are on our family path here, and it's
great.
And, you're just getting started for your CrossFit journey, honestly. I mean, the biggest thing is, like, I've noticed is just, like, trying to learn how to get you to push yourself a little bit, which you have. The weights are getting there. Hey, listen, you might not do a bar muscle up anytime soon, but your pull-ups are getting better, all those good things. So but yeah, I think that's a good way to end it for you, man. So we appreciate you, grateful for you. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of this. Make sure you reserve for class on Wodify. That's the biggest thing. All right. Well, I got nothing else here, man. Thank you so much,
guys.
dude.
This was awesome. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Team, Joe and I are back next week. We promise to give you the good stuff here, all right? We're getting ready for the Open. It's going to be a good time. Mr. Matt's going to help us out, get us organized with the leaderboard, all right? All right. See you guys next week. Peace.